friends. My name is Robin Henley. I would like you to sit with me for a minute while I tell you about a dog named Boo Boos. Boo Boos was the greatest dog in the world. He was my comforter, my protector, and the most loyal man's best friend a girl could ever ask for. But there was one thing that made Boo Boo stand out. He was a pit bull. One day I was signing the lease agreement to a beautiful apartment I had found in Savannah. While sitting across from the woman in the leasing office, I kept nodding my head with excitement until she said something that made my stomach drop. No aggressive breeds allowed. I asked what she meant by aggressive breeds, and she only had one type to say. Pit bulls. My heart broke. This lady didn't know my dog. Aggressive breed. Not allowed. Why can't he live with me? These were questions I asked myself over and over whenever Boo Boos and I searched for a place to live. And I kept hearing the same thing. No aggressive breeds allowed. No pit bulls allowed. Pit bulls are banned. I needed to know why. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Why I believe pit bulls shouldn't be banned from society. But in order to understand a current issue, we must first understand its past. All dog breeds were designed for a specific purpose. For example, retrievers were originally created to be hunting dogs. Today, they're not used quite so much for hunting as they are for house pets. The American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, or ASPCA, informs us that, quote, today's pit bull is a descendant of the original English bull baiting dog, a dog that was bred to bite and hold bulls, bears, and other large animals around the face. When this became outlawed in the 1800s, people turned to fighting their dogs against each other. These larger, slower, bull-baiting dogs were crossed with smaller, quicker terriers to produce a more agile and athletic dog. Other pit bulls were specifically bred for work and companionship. Another misconception that many people have is what constitutes as a pit bull. Many dog breeds share similar physical traits, such as pointy ears, small eyes, wide heads and shoulders, large muscles, long limbs, and deep rib cages. Because of this, many dog breeds get mistakenly labeled as pit bulls, but in reality they're mixed breeds. In fact, a recent study shows that 62% of pit bull type dogs actually have less than 50% DNA concentration from pit bull type ancestry. Pitbullinfo.org, which is a nonprofit research group dedicated to providing statistics and information based on scientific peer-reviewed studies, states that, quote, inaccurate statistics about pit bulls primarily use media reports, shelter adoption information, and even social media posts as their primary source for breed information. Multiple scientific studies have proved that DNA has no justification for breed-specific laws. Like with anything, it is our job to not only research the facts, but the details and sources behind them as well. Now that we understand the history and breed specifications of the pit bull, another aspect that we must look at is the concept of nature versus nurture. A dog's genetics may have some influence on its behavior, but it doesn't determine everything. The ASPCA states that, quote, when it comes to influencing the behavior of an individual dog, factors such as housing conditions and the history of social interactions play pivotal roles in behavioral development. This is why there's such variation in behavior between individual dogs, even when they're bred for the same purposes. Pitbullinfo.org believes that another myth people commonly have is that pit bulls have a negative temperament. But according to the latest results from the American Temperament Test Society, they continue to achieve excellent scores, scoring in the top 23% of all breeds. The ATTS measures different aspects of temperament, such as aggressiveness, friendliness, shyness, and stability, as well as the dog's instinct for protectiveness against its handler. So we can see how pit bulls make excellent companions due to their naturally loving nature. But what about in the community aspect? Can these dogs contribute positively to our society? Because of their excellent temperament scores, pit bulls make incredible police dogs, service dogs, and therapy dogs. Samantha Edwards from Save a Bull, which is a community that promotes awareness and education for pit bulls, believes that these dogs, quote, have extraordinary value in the workforce, end quote. She introduces us to an exceptional few. Meet Popsicle. He was found in an old freezer where he was left to die after being used as bait for dog fights. He is the largest recorded single drug find in Texas history. Meet Sergeant Stubby. He has been called the most decorated war dog of World War I. He served for 18 months and participated in 17 battles on the Western Front, where he saved his entire platoon by warning them of a poison gas attack. Meet Cheyenne, Dakota, and Tahoe. the top-rated search and rescue dogs who have helped save the lives of many. In fact, Dakota and her owner were requested by NASA to assist in the recovery of astronauts after the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster in 2003. Meet Blueberry. She was called upon to help comfort those affected by the Boston Marathon bombing. These victims would open up to her, and she would listen. Because of their gentle, affectionate nature, pit bulls make wonderful therapy dogs and are frequently used to help veterans with PTSD, as well as people with other mental or physical illnesses. So in conclusion, pit bulls have undoubtedly inherited a bad reputation. I'd be biased if I said they're perfect animals. They're not, and they do look intimidating. But there's not enough sufficient evidence to ban them from society. Our behavior isn't determined solely upon our DNA. It's based on how we are raised, as well as life experiences we go through. The ASPCA believes that, quote, all dogs, including pit bulls, are individuals. Treating them as such and judging them by their actions and not by their personal appearance is the best way to ensure that dogs and people can continue to share safe and happy lives together. Thankfully, people are becoming more understanding as well as appreciative of these misunderstood creatures, but we have a long way to go before dog and human stereotypes disappear. I know I wouldn't want someone to judge my insides based on my outsides. Would you? Thank you. Okay, audience, do you have any questions for me?
Could you tell me what the quote in the top left corner says?
I sure can. It's a quote by the Humane Society of the United States that says, there is no evidence that breed-specific laws reduce dog bites or attacks on people, and they divert resources from more effective animal control and public safety initiatives. Breed-based policies are based on myths and misinformation rather than science or credible data.
And what is the 80, 84, and 86%?
80% of the hundreds of pit bulls euthanized and killed every year by animal control in Prince George's County, and the 84% of dogs involved in fatal attacks were neglected or abused. And 86% of fatal dog attacks involved unneutered male dogs. And it says the breed isn't the problem, the owner is.
Now, can you tell me any negatives about pit bulls?
Sure, they're definitely not perfect. They're very strong, which they don't know how big they are, how strong they are. They're not aware of their size. So that can be a little tricky if you have kids around. They are also very active, very hyper. They require a lot of attention. They don't like to be left alone, so I wouldn't recommend them to anyone who is not home a lot or can spend a lot of time with them or get them trained properly.
Would you recommend leaving your kid alone with a pit bull?
Oh, absolutely, but only if I had trained the dog. Like I said earlier, they don't know their size and strength. So, in order for them to be aware of that, you kind of have to train them to be a little more gentle with smaller children. But absolutely, I would feel safe with a pit bull around my child if he was properly or she was properly trained.
Thank you.
Thank you.